So, do you like Northanger Abbey? Well, if you do, here's a question for you. If you're young Catherine Morland, headed off to Bath, and there you meet Henry Tilney at a ball, and he's just so cute, and you want him to like you, how do you get him to like you? Seriously, how do you attract Henry Tilney? That is what we're going to be going into here in this video. 2 important factors at play in Northanger Abbey that benefits Catherine and Henry's relationship. My name is Ellie Dashwood, and this is my channel where we talk about history and literature. If you like either of those things, please subscribe. So Henry and Catherine have a very interesting relationship, and of course there's many different factors that attract Henry to Catherine, like her good heart, but there's 2 very important ones that Jane Austen goes into detail about, and we're going to be looking at those. One is the fact that Catherine took the initiative. She liked him first, and that inspired this concept of gratitude. So we're also going to be going into Henry's gratitude. Towards the end of the book, when Henry is making his proposals to Catherine, the narrator tells us this. Henry was now sincerely attached to her, though he felt and delighted in all the excellencies of her character and truly loved her society. I must confess that his affection originated in nothing better than gratitude, or, in other words, that a persuasion of her partiality for him had been the only cause of giving her a serious thought. It is a new circumstance in romance, I acknowledge, and dreadfully derogatory of the heroine's dignity. But if it be as new in common life, the credit of a wild imagination will at least be all my own. So in this quote, we see Jane Austen telling us that he started liking her because she liked him. And of course, the part where she goes on to talk about how this may be a new concept in books, but it happens in real life, is of course part of her commentary on other novels at the time. Because, in other novels, this is how men fall in love. They see the girl for the very first time, and they're like, how will I ever live without her? And that was not how it worked with Henry and Catherine. How it worked with Henry and Catherine was they danced, and she was like, oh, he's so cute. And he's like, hey, she likes me. Maybe I should like her back. And that is this concept of gratitude. So what does gratitude have to do with someone liking you? And this is an interesting concept that's across Jane Austen's novels, which is that one person starts liking the other person. And the person that's liked is like, wow, the person likes me. I appreciate this. It makes me like them too. And that is what Jane Austen is calling gratitude. It's also what modern psychologists call reciprocal liking, or this idea that we like people who like us. And then when they do something nice for us, we want to do something nice back to them, and then it eventually builds this relationship. But it's all built on us initially being like, wow, this person likes me, I'm going to like them back. So now that we understand the concept, let's look at it in Pride and Prejudice really quick, because it has a story arc of its own, Elizabeth's gratitude toward Darcy for him liking her. So of course, the first time that Elizabeth becomes aware of the fact that Darcy likes her is when he proposes marriage at Rosings. And this is her response to him. She says, in such cases as this, it is, I believe, the established mode to express a sense of obligation for the sentiments avowed, however unequally they may be returned. It is natural that obligation should be felt, and if I could feel gratitude, I would now thank you. But I cannot. I have never desired your good opinion, and you have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. So here she's saying, yeah, I understand the fact that you like me should be inspiring in me these feelings of like, oh wow, he likes me, I'm so grateful. But it's not happening because I think you're a jerk. Yep, that's Elizabeth's response to this marriage proposal. And what's interesting is how she connects this idea of gratitude to this duty or this obligation. And it really was seen as sort of this natural obligation, gratitude being highly talked about in the religious scene at the time as something that she should be feeling for this. But she doesn't because, again, she thinks he's a jerk. Okay, so he proposes, no gratitude's happening with Elizabeth. Guys, my hair just fell out of its bun, so now we're stuck with this ponytail thing. Anyway, back to the story arc of Elizabeth's gratitude. So basically, let's now fast forward. She gets that letter from Darcy. She's undeceived about his character. She goes on a trip. She's visiting his house. She's like, wow, his house is fancy. And then now she's in the art gallery standing in front of a portrait of him. And this is what the book says. Every idea that had been brought forward by the housekeeper was favorable to his character, and as she stood before the canvas on which he was represented and fixed his eyes upon herself, she thought of his regard with a deeper sentiment of gratitude than it had ever raised before. She remembered its warmth and softened its impropriety of expression. That's right. Over time, this gratitude has been building up in her. And as she learns more about his great character, she's like, wow, this guy liked me. It's like so cool. I have like so much gratitude. So really, her heart is already being prepared for what happens next, which is running into him and him being nice to her. And he's nice to her aunt and uncle. Elizabeth's gratitude is ready to take further steps. And this is how it describes her feelings about him now. But above all, above respect and esteem, there was a motive within her of goodwill which could not be overlooked. It was gratitude. Gratitude not merely for having once loved her, but for loving her still, well enough to forgive all the petulance and acrimony of her manner in rejecting him, and all the unjust accusations accompanying her rejection. Yep, her heart is totally starting to like this guy now. One of the main reasons, that gratitude for the fact that he liked her and he's forgiving her all of this stuff. Yeah. Then it continues. If gratitude and esteem are good foundations of affection, Elizabeth's change of sentiment will be neither improbable nor faulty. Right? Gratitude plus esteem. Good foundation of a relationship there. So it is interesting how Elizabeth's gratitude has this complete story arc of its own, where it's non-existence, to where it starts to grow, to where it's completely confirmed, and then it's pretty much the basis of her romantic affection for Mr. Darcy. And Jane Austen gives gratitude a lot of power throughout her works. In fact, in Persuasion, when Captain Benwick gets engaged to Louisa Musgrove, Captain Wentworth has this to say. I confess that I do think there is a disparity, too great a disparity, in a point no less essential than mind. I regard Louisa Musgrove as a very amiable, sweet-tempered girl, and not deficient in understanding, but Benwick is something more. He's a clever man, a reading man, and I confess that I do consider him attaching himself to her with some surprise. Had it been the effect of gratitude, had he learnt to love her because he believed her to be preferring him, it would have been another thing, but I have no reason to suppose it so. It seems, on the contrary, to have been a perfectly spontaneous, untaught feeling on his side, and this surprises me. So it's very interesting. Here we have gratitude being connected with words like learnt and taught, almost as if somebody liking you can essentially teach you to like them back. Which again, sort of goes back to this concept of reciprocal liking. This is just showing what strength Jane Austen is giving to this concept of gratitude. What's really interesting about gratitude in Jane Austen's works is it can go both ways. A man can inspire it in a woman can inspire it in a man. And that's super equalizing in some ways. The fact that Catherine is the one that inspires gratitude in Henry is a big deal because the person who inspires gratitude is seen as in the more powerful position. And we see that talked about in Emma. When Mr. Weston is hitting on Miss Taylor, Emma's governess, it says this. It is a great deal better to choose than to be chosen, to excite gratitude than to feel it. So here we see it's better to be the one who chooses and the one who likes first, because then you're on the receiving end of this gratitude. And the fact that it is Catherine who's initiating that in the Catherine-Henry relationship is very equalizing for the power balance between the sexes here. So exactly how does Catherine do this, though? And the answer is she consistently shows that she likes Henry throughout the book, which is very interesting for the time, too, because she's taking that initiative. In fact, let's look at a scene on the night that Henry and Catherine meet. She is already liking him from that very first ball that she's at. Here is what it says. They danced again, and when the assembly closed, parted. on the lady's side at least, with a strong inclination for continuing the acquaintance. Whether she thought of him so much while she drank her warm wine and water and prepared herself for bed as to dream of him when there, cannot be ascertained. But I hope it was no more than a slight slumber, or a morning doze at most. For if it be true, as a celebrated writer has maintained, that no young lady can be justified in falling in love before the gentleman's love is declared, it must be very improper that a young lady should dream of a gentleman before the gentleman is first known to have dreamt of her. So here we see the end of the ball, and Catherine definitely wants to see him again. In fact, she might go home and dream about him, if that was proper. So what's interesting about this celebrated writer she mentions is the fact that she footnotes it. She tells us exactly who it is claiming that a young woman cannot be in love first. And that person is Samuel Richardson, the author of Pamela. He wrote an article for this periodical in the 1750s called the Rambler. And I looked up said article and read it. I'm about to tell you its brilliant contents. Basically, Samuel Richardson is like, I'm an old man now, but I'm going to tell you that back in my day, women were actually women. They weren't these cheap girls out there going to public balls like they are now. They're not worth marrying these days. Yep, that's essentially what the article says. In fact, he's like, back in my day, the only time you could see a beautiful woman that was a stranger to you was at church. So guess what? Guys went to church back then. Now you can just see women at public assemblies, like the balls Catherine attends in Northanger Abbey. You can just see them anywhere. They're so cheap. Why would you marry them? But amidst his description of what women were like back in the day when they were women, he says that a young lady should be in love, and the love of the young gentleman undeclared is a heterodoxy which prudence and even policy must not allow. Right? It is insane to think that a young lady could be in love first. Policy must not allow this. Women need to be women again and only go to church. In fact, I love the part of the rant when he's talking about only seeing beautiful women in church. When he's like, with what ardor have I seen watched for the rising of a kneeling beauty, and what additional charms has devotion given to her recommunicated features. Right? He's like, all the guys were checking her out while she was taking communion. That's how it should be. So according to Samuel Richardson, Catherine's just doing everything wrong. She's going to public assemblies and balls that make her cheap and unmarriable, and she's liking Henry first, which is just completely unacceptable, according to Samuel Richardson. And after that first meeting, Catherine's behavior always shows Henry that she likes him. Of course, she always does this very unknowingly to herself. For example, when she has a conversation with his sister, this is how it ends. This civility was duly returned, and they parted. On Miss Tilney's side with some knowledge of her new acquaintance's feelings, and on Catherine's without having the smallest consciousness of having explained them. That's right, Catherine just goes through her life liking Henry, not realizing that everybody knows that she likes Henry. But it is her liking him that inspires him liking her. And I think it's important to note that, yes, Henry's father, General Tilney, is eventually like, hey, son, you better catch this girl because I think she has money. But Henry's already showing signs that he likes Catherine before that happens. For example, in that dramatic scene where Catherine wants to go on a walk with Henry and Eleanor, but then Mr. Thorpe pretty much kidnaps her in the carriage and prevents her from going on that walk. Henry gets super sore about it, way more so than his sister. Yeah, and Catherine even notes this, and he gets kind of embarrassed about that fact. But that is a sign that he's already developing those feelings and that preference for Catherine before his father steps in to make him take it to the next level. And I think that's important to note because sometimes people can be like, oh, well, he just liked her because his dad told him to. But there were already signs he was going that direction. And also it connects back to this concept of gratitude that Jane Austen identified as the source of his romantic intentions towards her. So those are two important factors at play in Northanger Abbey of how Catherine attracts Henry Tilney. She liked him first, despite drawing the ire of Samuel Richardson. Yep, that is how Catherine catches Henry. Can all take great lessons from her. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and keep having an awesome day, because you're awesome. Bye!